Tesla CEO Elon Musk bought a 9.2% stake in Twitter, making Musk the company's largest shareholder. According to Forbes, Musk's stake in the platform is almost 4 times the size of founder Jack Dorsey's share. Now, the purchase comes less than 2 weeks after Musk criticized Twitter over its rules and polled users on the platform on whether or not they believe Twitter adheres to free speech. Twitter's stocks have since surged more than 27%, and that's since Musk's buy-in. Musk teased the prospect of an edit button yesterday after the news broke and after people were relentlessly tweeting at him demanding one. And he polled users on the issue. Twitter's CEO says the poll is important and urged people to vote carefully. Our colleague, The Hill's Julia Manchester, and Senior Director of Policy at the Conservative Partnership Institute, Rachel Bovard, join us now to discuss. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Good morning.
So, Rachel, I'll start with you. Is this the best news or the best news ever? I'm kidding, but it's so exciting. It's so interesting. Anything could happen now.
It is interesting. And as of this morning, Elon Musk is on the board of Twitter. So he is not just an activist shareholder now. He is a member of the board. So things are about to get even more interesting, I think, for Twitter and what Elon Musk brings to the table, which I think is anyone's guess at this point. If you've watched Elon Musk, you know how mercurial he tends to be. And so I'm not sure anyone knows exactly what he has planned or what he's planning for Twitter or his next venture, of which this could be a part. So I think it will be pretty interesting to watch this play out, because now that he's on the board, he's too big a fish, I think, to just sit there and take his lumps.
Well, and Rachel, is this a solution to the big tech problem that you and I can actually agree on? That, we've disagreed on, what regulation or legislation or breaking them up or antitrust we would support to deal with what I do think, and agree with you on, are real threats to free speech on the platform. Okay, what about a private citizen buys up the company who wants to, do what he can to push it in a more free speech friendly direction? Can't hurt, right?
It can't. And I think this possibly could solve a lot of problems with Twitter, depending on what Elon Musk demands and receives. Of course, he's going to have to, I think, work with the other board members. Allegedly, he and Jack Dorsey, who's also on the board, are friendly and both want to push more in a free speech direction, although I'm not sure how seriously to take that from Jack Dorsey. But he's got, hedge fund investors. He's got a former Google exec on the board who I think is probably terrible on the issue of free speech. So we'll see. But I think on the broader issue, I have seen some takes this morning that are like, oh, the market is working. Well, yes, if we can all just become the richest man in the world and buy the largest share of Twitter, maybe we can solve our problems. But I agree with you. Like, this could end up being a very good thing for the state of free speech on Twitter, which, as you and I have discussed, controls sort of the narrative arc of the news in this country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly among the chattering class, the professional class, the political class. Yeah, what do you make of this, Julia? It's a fun story, but could have real importance for actually how a lot of us do our jobs, right? I'm sure you, like me, get a lot of your, or you at least see what other journalists are working on based on Twitter. That's largely my situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm very interested to see what the future prospects of an edit button are. I don't really know what that will look like, how that will be played out, but I've seen lots of reaction about that in particular. But it's been interesting to watch the lawmaker reaction to this. I was just scrolling through Twitter a few moments ago, and Lauren Boebert, a conservative congresswoman from Colorado, just responded, and she essentially said, this is just the beginning. 2022 is the year we take our country back, and she's referring to that Musk's free speech mentality, that sort of a thing. So I think you're going to see this cheered by the populist classes of the left and the right. But at the same time, I've seen some criticism to this move, saying, look, this is just another rich guy in big tech getting involved in another company in big tech, and this is just kind of showing how big tech, there's an incestuous nature to it. So, we'll have to see where this goes. I'm fascinated because Elon Musk is really a fascinating character. He doesn't really seem, in my mind at least, I don't really put him with the other characters in big tech. He's sort of his own category.
He is definitely his own category.
So he could definitely shake things up, and I think conservatives are looking forward to this because of the criticism of free speech, particularly in policies towards conservatives on big tech. So we'll see.
Well, Fox News' host Tucker Carlson reacted to Musk's stake in the company. Let's watch that.
So what happens next? Let's be very clear. this is not a business transaction. It's much bigger than that. Elon Musk is a massive threat to the way things are. So, by definition, it will not be long before they are calling him a racist. You can mark your calendar. Tonight, there are Democratic operatives studying everything Elon Musk has ever said in public. They're preparing one of the nastiest campaigns of character assassination in memory. They have no choice but to do this. Restoring free speech to Twitter is the greatest possible threat to the people in charge. They have to control the information. If they don't, they fall.
The popular Market Watch account Unusual Whales asked this question: should Elon Musk reinstate Trump's Twitter account? Well, I'll turn it over to you, Rachel. What do you think?
I mean, I think the answer is absolutely yes, right? Like, if this is Elon Musk's commitment to free speech, the first thing you should do is sort of begin to protect political speech on the platform. I mean, among all the other speech, that's been suppressed, I think, on the platform, I think the first thing he could do to win a lot of goodwill, I think, across the board, at least from conservatives, would be to stop the censorship of political speech, but also reinstate everybody who was banned for talking about COVID-19 information that we now know is true.
Yes.
I think those would be like baseline things he could do immediately. I think that would actually show some difference in Twitter and show that he's committed to the free speech ideal. Yeah,
I agree. I was thinking what specifically I would want Twitter to do differently the other day because of this, and I was realizing we're now at a point where I am actually more frustrated with Facebook's content moderation than I am with Twitter's, which I think I was in the opposite place like a year ago, but the fact-checking system on Facebook is tyrannical and insane, and Twitter doesn't have a comparative fact-checking where they actually blur the piece of content and say, are you sure you want to proceed with this? So at the very least, he should resist implementing anything like that because it's terrible.
Yeah, well, remember, Twitter used to call itself the free speech wing of the free speech party. That was not that long ago. It was back in 2011. And still to this day, Twitter remains the only major social media platform where you can post pornography and adult consenting pornography. Right. And you can also post graphic violence. So they are starting from a little bit more of a free speech place than I think the other platforms are. And so I'm curious to see where Elon Musk take this. I would like to see more user control personally of the algorithm, having options for what users want to see and when.
Yeah. What do you think, Julia? Is everybody going to be trying to cancel Elon now that he's taking this role on Twitter?
Yeah, I think he's definitely going to have his critics. He's a controversial character, like we said before, and I think, he's gotten into Twitter fights with liberals like Senator Bernie Sanders, so I think we can definitely expect some backlash there. When we'll have to see what his first moves are. I think then we'll see where it goes.
Oh, well, and I want to get your reaction to this. So Parag Agrawal, who's the new CEO of Twitter, replaced Jack Dorsey. Yeah, so he said on Twitter, I'm excited to share that we're appointing Elon Musk to our board, as Rachel mentioned. Through conversations with Elon in recent weeks, it became clear to us that he would bring great value to our board. He's both a passionate believer and intense critic of the service, which is exactly what we need on Twitter and in the boardroom to make us stronger in the long term. Welcome, Elon. And Elon responded, looking forward to working with you to make significant improvements to Twitter in the coming months. So look at that, all playing out in public.
All playing out in public. Look, I think, we're going to see some changes into how Twitter obviously operates with Elon Musk. And I think, you mentioned Facebook and how Facebook deals with misinformation, disinformation, and, picking out what's posted on the platform
That's
and
how
such.
They deal with it.
Yeah. So, I'm interested to see how Twitter goes about this because Twitter has not been shielded by accusations of bias and such. And I think this is where Elon Musk is coming from. But I'm especially interested to see where this goes in the age of COVID-19. What happens, how do they sift through all of that information? And really, how does this impact other misinformation or disinformation campaigns, such as from governments like the Kremlin? We'll see.
Interesting. Rachel, we got to go, but I always think it's interesting that Elon is viewed not as a hard right figure, obviously, but he's well liked enough, I think, among the right, or identified as sort of not hostile to the right, even though his main thing is he's a green energy guy in some sense, but because he is not absolutely, completely having just over-the-top contempt toward the right, he's in good standing with him. That's literally all it takes.
No, the head pat is real, and we take it every time. And I think that is what's happening here with Elon Musk. So, look, I think we're all feeling fairly hopeful about what he can do. Although I'm not going to put all my eggs in the Elon Musk basket. So we'll see.
All right. Well, Julia, Rachel, thank you both so much for joining me.
Thanks.
Thanks.
And stick around for more Rising in just a minute.